we have this clip here from the Stephen A. Smith show, which I guess airs on SiriusXM. I didn't know this aired on SiriusXM. I thought it was just an internet show. But he had a response to Charlie Kirk. I saw a very brief clip of this, and it was fantastic. I'm going to react to this clip here. It's probably going to have his thoughts in full.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you courtesy of SiriusXM Channel 82 Mad Dog Sports Radio. Number to call up as always is 888-MAD-DOG-6. That's 888-MAD-DOG-6. That's 888-623-3646. And also, if you want to send in your voicemail messages because you can't get me on the line, you can always go to SiriusXM.com/GetSerious. That's SiriusXM.com/GetSerious to send in your voicemail messages. I'll even grade them. And if you attach your phone number to you, I might even call you back and put you on the air to hear what you have to say. Normally, as you well know, I'm somebody that comes out like a bat out of hell. I love doing radio. I love being back at Mad Dog Sports Radio. I like to lead with my passion and my fervor to really start the day, start the afternoon, so to speak. But if I sound a little bit, if not a lot, different, you can use the word melancholy, you can use the word sad or whatever. It's because I'm not in that kind of mood today. I'm going to be real. I'm going to be authentic. I'm going to be my true Stephen A. self. Whoever the hell I am is who I am. That's the way it goes. And I'm sitting up here this afternoon the afternoon on the East Coast, the morning on the West Coast, and I want to thank the world of sports. We got a Thursday night game coming up tonight. Watch the Commanders against the Green Bay Packers, and I know that, and I'm getting ready to talk about that. We've got news emanating out of the NBA involving Kawhi Leonard. I'm going to talk about that. The WNBA season is coming to an end. How much that means to you, if anything at all, without the services of Caitlin Clark. I'm going to talk about that, along with, of course, I'm in Vegas as we speak, in our SiriusXM Vegas studios, because I'm here for the big fight between Saul Canelo Alvarez, defending his 168-pound super middleweight championship against Terrence Crawford, undefeated at 41-0 with 31 KOs, which may be the fight of the decade. So we're all looking forward to talking about those things, but that's not what's on my mind. What's on my mind was the shooting that happened yesterday in Utah. And we can slice it any way we want to, but what a horrific thing to see. It's all over the news. It's all over YouTube. It's everywhere. And I challenge anybody to take a look at that and tell me that you didn't cringe. I'm happy.
I think cringe doesn't describe the half of what we felt watching that clip.
About sports today, because it's supposed to be a reprieve, something that pulls you away from life's travails and what truly, truly ails us all.
One thing I can't understand, honestly, if there's one thing that I could ever do in content creation, would actually be to emulate sports talk. And I know that there are programs that have similar formats, like Piers Morgan Uncensored and First Take. Format-wise, they're not all that different. But one thing I love about sports talk, one thing that kind of draws me in, even though I don't really follow pro sports that closely, I've always loved talk shows. I love listening to talk radio, podcasts, all that. But what's special about sports talk is, especially on television, people will argue extremely passionately, and it's not personal, right? They don't take it so seriously that they hate the other person because they disagree with what they're saying. That's never something that I've seen, really. There's been like perceived beef. There's maybe been like Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp beefing across the table. Other than that, it's not personal. And I think if there's one thing I could do in content creation, I would love to do, is make a sports talk type program where you've got people who disagree, but they're good friends and they don't take it seriously, they don't call each other like racist or whatever, you can criticize whatever position or legislation or policy however you like. But I think it doesn't need to get personal, right? It shouldn't be like if you vote a certain way, I'm not seeing you on Thanksgiving. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That's like, if you put money on the Cowboys to win on Sunday, then I'm not seeing you on Thanksgiving. That's also ridiculous. Now, I do know there are some families who roll like that, unfortunately. But it's not as prominent in the sports world as it is in the world of politics, which is extremely unfortunate. And I have extremely fruitful dialogues with people across the aisle that I know in person. One of them is Craig of the Craig Cam fame. Actually, I was rewatching an older clip of my conversation I had with him about immigration, where there are things that we really disagree on immigration. I was watching over the clip as I was editing it, I think a few days ago, maybe a week ago. And then as I was watching it, I was like, in this conversation, I didn't really push back on him too much, even though there were things that even in the moment I was like, you're wrong about this. I disagree with this. But after I edited the video, I watched it all the way through, and I was like, I'm really glad I did what I did. And I thought about making a separate video about this. I may just throw it in here. I'm really glad that I had the conversation the way that I did, because I love internet debates about politics. I would love to have some debates with people in my Discord server about various things. It's just kind of difficult because sometimes schedules don't line up, or it's a Canadian, and I'm not well versed in Canadian politics, so it's hard to debate on that. But for me and Craig, in that I guess the interview maybe is the right way to put it, we were literally just sitting and talking while waiting for a video game to load that we were trying to play together. I thought he was wrong, and I was watching the clip and I was like, oh, I could have even pinned him against the wall on that one. I could have had him on the ropes on that one. I could have gone at him, but I didn't. And I rewatched and I was like, you know what? This is actually really good. Like, I want to come back and actually have a proper debate with him, but in the moment I was there to learn. In the beginning of the segment, I was like, I have not heard we have not spoken long form about immigration. Let's do it. So it was very much me learning the nuances of his position, because he also likes to say this, that I am extremely verbose and perhaps well-spoken when it comes to writing things and written messages and typing things out in texts. He is more of a spoken person. So there have actually been times where we were talking about something and we were going back and forth so much and neither of us were busy, so he called me and then we talk. And so in that conversation, I was learning from him what his perspective was, maybe poking some things, but not really to prove myself right as I would have been in proper debate, which I wouldn't be opposed to doing at some point in the future still, but just to learn where he was coming from. Because especially in immigration, I'm really curious as to the rationale that people use. And so to have a conversation where it's like that, and you can even get loud, right? Like sports talk shows do, but it's not personal. You don't hate each other over it. Is something that I wish we had in politics, and I don't think that we do. Even with shows like Breaking Points, sometimes things get so tense that you wonder if they're still friends. Sometimes in stuff like The Hill, they actually do end up blowing up aspects of the show because, the disagreement becomes too sharp and someone takes it personally, so someone gets the boot. I want politics on television to be more like First Take and less like whatever Abby Phillips' show is, right? Shouting matches between people who seem to hate each other, right? People spewing vitriolic rhetoric back and forth. And I actually kind of want to thank Stephen A. Smith for modeling what's respectful disagreement looks like on television. I just think it's a shame that no one else is emulating that when it comes to politics. But I'm getting kind of off track. It's kind of a tangent, something I've always wanted to say on stream. let's get back to what he has to say here.
And I'm not going to get into any politics or anything like that. SiriusXM Mad Dog Sports Radio ain't the place for that. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to be honest with the listeners out there everywhere to let you know that sports isn't the only thing on my mind, but I'm ecstatic that I'm still entrenched in the world of sports. And I get to talk about games and marvelous professional and collegiate athletes and storylines that ultimately make you say, come hell or high water, at the end of the day, it's just a game. Exactly. There's real life stuff going on in this world. And we saw a right-wing conservative host, because that's what he was, and that's what they labeled Charlie Kirk. And we saw this man speaking in Utah at Utah Valley University, and we saw him struck by a bullet in his neck. We saw blood gushing out immediately, and it didn't take long before he was pronounced dead at the age of 31, courtesy of an assassin's bullet. A bullet from a rifle that was lodged against him from 200 yards away. The part that really resonates with me, outside of the obvious, is that he had two children, younger than 5 years of age. Both were in attendance and saw their father get gunned down. He had a wife, their mother, who was in attendance, who saw her husband get gunned down. In the world that we're living in today, I don't care who you are. You're white, you're black, you're Hispanic, you're Asian, you're Native American, you're Jewish, you're Catholic, you're Christian. I don't care. At some point in time, the one thing that sports needs to remind us about, the importance, the appreciation that we should all embrace, is how it brings all of us together. Mm-hmm. No matter your color or creed, no matter your ethnicity, no matter your upbringing, your background, et cetera, when you wear the same uniform as somebody else, when you play in the same league as another contemporary, when the sacrifices that you make to elevate yourself to a certain level is something that's mirrored by hundreds, if not thousands, of other individuals out there, reminds us all that we're all God's children. And that universally, when we see something like that transpired,
well, I mean, we're not all saved. I know what he means, though, is that we've all been created in the image of God, and he's put us down here to live amongst one another intentionally. So get along, right? You know, if you got like two kids in the playpen and they're fighting, it's like, no, I'm putting you here, you know, behave and get along. Like, I think from that perspective, yes, I get the whole God's children thing. I'm a Christian, right? So I if I'm gonna have something on air, I want to make sure that the theology is on point. So sorry if I sound pedantic on that, but you know, that's just how I be.
And that universally, when we see something like that transpired, we got to collectively come together and understand that the world that we're witnessing and the world that we're living is pretty damn messed up. And there's a lot more love and a lot more brotherhood and sisterhood and humanity that goes on in this world that doesn't. Yet the few who are evil amongst us are the ones that screech and make the most noise. Mm-hmm. And it's affecting us in a way where it's getting to a point where you're going to get scared to walk out in the streets. You're going to get scared to show love and affection and even to say hello to your fellow man and woman, your neighbor.
I hope not. But you know, Stephen A. Smith is also someone you can use as a normal person avatar, right? You know, he's like he's like the uncle at the Thanksgiving dinner table who's like ranting about the sports team while the game is on in the other room, right? Or he's on his knees crying because his team is losing the Cowboys and Redskins game, right? He is also a normal person. So this is also a normal person reaction. So this, you know, Pat McAfee leaned into the hope of what we'd like to see in the world in the future, in our utopia, in our minds. Stephen A. Smith here is speaking on the fear of what things are like now and how they could look if things don't change in the country.
And sports is so important now more than ever before, because you know something? When you look at Lambeau Field tonight in Green Bay, Wisconsin, when the Green Bay Packers host the Washington Commanders, you had better believe 60,000 plus are going to be at that stadium. You had better believe that millions are going to be watching. You had better believe that whether it's on radio or television or anywhere else, you're going to see people talking about the game. And it's important because it shows this common ground. There's a common denominator. There's a common love and affection. Sports is worth a multi-billion-dollar industry, whether it's football, whether it's basketball, whether it's baseball, for a reason. Because it brings us joy. And it reminds us all how we can truly get along. And that the vitriol and the evil and the viciousness that exists in this world, it ain't the many, it's the few. But it also needs to remind us that we got to come together and speak up and speak out against those evil people, against those with evil tendencies, against those who are insidious and iniquitous and looking to do anything they can to harm us and the fabric of our society.
Sorry, when I listen to Stephen A. Smith, I just can't help but smile. He said iniquitous. I love this man's vocabulary. Amazing. Speak on. Continue.
I'm a black man born in America. I know what problems that exist in this country. But I also know there's far more good people than there are bad people in this country, regardless of who you are, what your ethnic background is. White, black, Hispanic, and beyond. I'm in a studio here in Las Vegas, and I'm looking outside, and I see people looking at me and smiling and saying, "What's up, Stephen?" They don't look anything like me. And I don't care, because they're showing me love, and I'm showing love right back to them. At some point in time, we got to recognize, can't just speak about it. Can't just give lip service to when such a vile act takes place. And we're going to give lip service to the tragedy of the moment, and then within 24 hours, we move on with our lives like nothing happened. Something did happen. Don't care what his political beliefs were. I don't care what he felt. I care about the fact that a man was gunned down in front of two of his children who are 5 years of age or less. That he's dead at the age of 31. That his wife is a widow. That his children are fatherless. Because his ideas and his beliefs differed from somebody else, apparently. And then I'm going online and I'm seeing people celebrating it. Shame. Shame on you. I have a job to do when I'm on Mad Dog Sports Radio to talk sports, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. But make no mistake about it, when I say that I'm a conscientious observer, that I'm an American citizen, that I'm just somebody who cares, and I'm somebody who believes in and tries to promote the importance of having a core decency attached to every one of us as human beings, I mean it. I mean it. Props to the New York Yankees organization last night for having a moment of silence. If you're a left winger instead of a right winger, you might not have liked that. You're missing the point. This man was shot and killed from 200 yards away in front of his wife and children and thousands of onlookers who had come to see him, Mr. Charlie Kirk, who had been going from campus to campus, simply debating his ideas against those who might differ from him. That's all.
It's crazy. Him getting shot is the exact opposite of what he wanted to see in the world and what he promoted, right? And called for completely. People online, or some people online, I'm saying, not many. Some people online are saying that he was calling for the deaths of trans people and all this stuff. Like, no, those are all just lies, right? He was not a violent person at all, or a supporter of violence. He's very, very, very peaceful. And his big thing was, speaking your mind peacefully, right? In debating and stepping across the aisle and shaking people's hands.
And his life was taken. He's gone at 31 just because he expressed thoughts that differed from somebody else, apparently. And some might blame it because, oh my God, he's friends with the president. And they may not be a Donald Trump supporter. I'm saying bump all that. He's a human being living in the United States of America. This is America. We're not supposed to condone stuff like this. Mm-hmm. We're not supposed to say it's okay. I don't give a damn who you are, black, white, or anything in between. You're a human being. That's your fellow man and fellow woman out there. That's your fellow brother and fellow sister out there. You got no business thinking like that. And you damn sure have no business doing something as heinous as that shooter who's still on a loose, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Crazy. I actually did look it up. They still don't have him. Wild. It's like 36 hours since it happened. Maybe I'm exaggerating. By now, this video might be up in a week, and we still might not know who the shooter is. So it is kind of crazy. The more time that goes on, actually, the less I believe that we're actually going to get the shooter. He might be out of the country for all we know.
As that shooter who's still on a loose, by the way. So I applaud the New York Yankees for having a moment of silence. I hope the FBI and law enforcement catch this individual and do what needs to be done with him, whatever that may be. We will go on with our lives because that's the way things go. We will discuss sports on this channel, on this show, because it's what we do. It's what the listener is looking for, as they should. But it doesn't mean that along the way, you strip yourself of your own humanity and you negate recalling and remembering who you are and what you stand for and what's most important. And that's caring enough about yourself and your fellow man and your fellow woman never to inflict violence upon anybody, never to do something like this. And certainly never to celebrate it. Sports does so much for us. It doesn't just give us something to cheer about. It's the fact that it allows us to cheer together. You're going to see Green Bay fans at Lambeau Field tonight in all colored shapes and sizes. Mm-hmm. You're going to see the same thing when the Commanders host a game or one of the other 32 NFL teams do the same. And the NBA season comes, you're going to see that too. And as the Major League Baseball playoffs are forthcoming, you're going to see that too. And right
as a college football aficionado, as is hopefully evident by the fact that I literally have an Ohio State jacket, I will say, yet again, I am miffed and even feel somewhat disrespected that college football often is left out of the conversation about major sports. I wish he had mentioned it. I wish he had included that. Yes, I am being petty and silly. But, such is my nature.
Here on Sirius XM Mad Dog Sports Radio, my background is entirely different than Mad Dog Russo. I imagine if we probed one another and we spoke about such things, our politics might be a little bit different. The same applies to Adam Shine. The same applies to Katie Nolan. The same applies to Steve Torrey and a bunch of other folks, and Eric Spitzer and everybody else associated with Sirius XM Mad Dog Sports Radio, and all of Sirius XM. Howard Stern included, and everybody else, including Megyn Kelly. I don't care. They're good people. I'm proud to know them. I'm proud to be on Mad Dog Sports Radio. I'm proud to call that man my brother from another mother. At some point in time, we got to remember that and remember to remind one another that there's far more love in this world than hate. And not allow evil and hate to dominate us and to strip us of what truly makes us the greatest nation in the world. It's that mosaic that we live under, a willingness to embrace any and all and find a way to agree without being disagreeable. Not even because we may want to all the time, but because we know it's what's best for a society to be civilized and positioned to prosper. Someone forgot about that yesterday in murdering Charlie Kirk. Others forgot about it by parading online and celebrating an evil, vile occurrence. Most of us are better than that. Let's show that. And let's begin by doing that and using sports to do it, because sports usually does come to the rescue after all. And we certainly needed sports to do that for us today. 888 Mad Dog 6 is the number to call up. That's 888-623-3646. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, Sirius XM, Mad Dog Sports Radio. Back with your calls, plus some voicemails at SiriusXM.com/GetSerious. More of the Stephen A. Smith Show coming your way in just a minute.
A great segment. Amazing segment. Ozzy McGuire here saying, when you silenced him and he wanted to sit down and talk with you, you will not like the man who was left. Ooh, that's gotta be a quote. That's too fire to not be a famous quote. That's actually incredible. I might quote that. I might run around online and quote that. Whew. And that's one of the fears, of course, that comes with this entire situation. Criticus Maximus here is saying, what is most concerning to me is the amount of people on the internet that are celebrating this or saying he had it coming is shocking. Well, of course, remember, it's not the majority of folks, right? The majority of folks don't have that sentiment. It says, I can tolerate almost anyone regardless of their beliefs. I cannot tolerate anyone who would celebrate someone getting killed over their beliefs. Yes. But don't try to kill them, okay? Because that's also a problem. And then lastly, I'm going to wrap up with this comment here. It says, newfound respect for this man. Thank you, Stephen, for standing on moral clarity. Fantastic, and a much needed statement. You call for peace from famous normal person avatar, Stephen A. Smith.